Hello and welcome back to another Walking Dead video and another week, another Fear the Walking Dead review. And today we'll be reviewing Fear the Walking Dead Season 8 Episode 3. And this episode is structured slightly different to the previous ones. I'm really happy. This episode is technically a Madison episode. However, it doesn't have just one plot. There's actually a plot B to this episode. And you might be going, okay, so what? This is big for Fear because since season 6, it has just been one plot an episode. And this episode has a mystery, but the mystery is actually interesting for once. So what happens in this episode is that we pick up with Madison, we pick up with June, and we find out, big reveals, that June confirms she was talking about Alicia. And the reason why they were taking Madison's blood is because they believe it could be hereditary. We find out that the treatment on Finch, which is Dwight and Sherry's son, actually is working. And this is definitely confirming in my beliefs that it's about the radiation dosage being first and the bite being introduced second. Because Dwight and Sherry were introduced radiation first, it's definitely making me believe that Dwight and Sherry have some sort of resistance and they passed it on to Finch. Because it now suddenly works and Finch survived the bite. We have a confirmed bite survivor, even though Alicia was like more or less confirmed. We saw the bite happen, we saw the radiation, and he's straight up alive. That's not the main focus of the episode. This episode is about Madison, June, Dove, and maybe Mo a bit, going out to try and expose Padre. It's about them trying to get back to the island, find the secrets, and then take down Padre. And we meet Daniel again, which is absolutely amazing. I do have a bit of a concern, even though I really didn't like the dementia subplot. They just say he takes a drink and he is now all like, yay, I'm fine. They completely brush over the dementia subplot, which I feel like they could have handled better, but I'm happy they addressed it and not just been like, time jump fixed his dementia. Madison and Daniel's reunion was absolutely perfect. I really love that moment when Madison turns around and Daniel just like goes, oh wait, I know you. It's just that nice moment where they have those scenes and they talk about their lives. I do really like the story that they're going with Daniel. I hope they do more because they're actually making Daniel be the badass that he was in the original 3 seasons. Since season 6 onwards, or season 5 he kind of did nothing, he's just been the dementia senile man that occasionally does badass things, but he's a general of an army in this time jump. So I really like, I hope they do a lot more with Daniel. I'm really excited for his story. And the second plot is about the origin of Padre, and the biggest issue of this is that it messes up the Fear timeline. They confirm that Fear Season 8 takes place 12 years into the apocalypse. However, they said Season 7 of Fear takes place about 3.5 years into the apocalypse, because they confirmed that Fear Season 7 takes place just after, just before, I think it was just after Rick Grimes was abducted. And that's the 3.5 year mark into the apocalypse. 7 years on from that is 10.5 years. They're saying it's 12. And it's very odd. I know this doesn't annoy most people, but to me, little retcons like that really grind my gears. And I know they're saying it just so they can say it ends in the same year as The Walking Dead. They are claiming that Fear Season 8 takes place in part 2 of The Walking Dead final season. However, that takes place near the 13-year mark because of the massive time jumps between part 1 and part 2 of the final season. So that means they're already still almost a year off still, so it should be actually 13 years, not 12. And I really don't like it. It should be 10 years in. We should be in the timeline near the end of season 9 before season 10 of The Walking Dead with the current timeline of Fear. But just small things like that. Another thing I don't like about this flashback before I actually get into it is the walkers look too decayed. This is meant to be fresh walkers. They should have blue eyes. We've seen what fresh walkers from Fear look like. The first 3 seasons, they have blue eyes. They're just a bit pale. Why do the walkers in this flashback to the start of the apocalypse already look like they've been dead for a couple months to almost a year? They have the decay of way too long than they're meant to be, and the makeup department just failed me in my opinion. If you're going to give us a flashback to the start of the apocalypse, make sure the walkers look fresh. It's such a small thing, but let's jump right into it. So the actual flashback plot is all about the main villain, and we find out her real name is Sam, and I do not care enough about her to go and try and remember her bird name. We find out why they're all called birds, and there's a little mystery about, why did Padre end up the way they did? And I feel like the reveal worked. It was okay, you had that annoying brother of Sam, but it worked. And it just kind of stole the show, I feel. I feel like this is meant to be a Madison episode, but it really felt like a Padre episode. It really felt like just giving us all the answers to Padre. We now completely understand Padre. And I'm like, wow, this is really early on. We're understanding Padre completely now. We know their motives, and you can actually sympathize them a little. You have these two kids, and something drastic happens, and now they're traumatized, and you can understand what they're going through. They're trying to protect other people from what they've had to deal with. And you're like, okay, this villain might actually not be absolute trash. This villain might be a half decent villain. I'm not going to say they're going to be good. They're not going to be in the top of Fear's villains, but they're not going in the bottom. They are actually quite okay. This episode does do a lot for me, and I personally really, really like this episode. This episode is paced well. I feel like the previous two episodes have points where they dragged, especially at the start. I felt the starts of both the previous episodes were actually pretty bad, and the episodes only got better as they went on. But this episode never had that. It was entertaining from start to finish. And Madison, I'm really, really happy. She has such a big role in the season. She's not there to just replace Alicia, and she's currently taking up more screen time than Morgan. I really like how she's so involved in this story. I know they are hinting at Morgan being the true leader by the end of this episode, but come on, just give it to Madison. And I'm really, really happy they're doing so much with her. This episode is written better than the previous ones. I'm not going to say well, it's written better than the previous ones. And this is definitely getting better. I'm really, really happy with this episode. It's paced well, it's acted well, it looks good. I also have to say the little moments in this episode are really, really nice. I really like the constant references to Nick and Alicia, Ophelia, and Charlie, Luciana, and all those things. I really, really like that, because The Walking Dead had the tendency for a character to be killed off, and then no one ever mentions them again. It was just they were forgotten about. The only character who ever got referenced again after they died was Rick, sometimes Glenn, but that was really, really it. It's really good that Fear the Walking Dead doesn't have that same trap, and they make sure to reference the lost multiple times, because that's what real people would do. They would talk about who they lost, even if it's been years. I do also like the really, really small moment where June and Madison meet for the first time, because it's been basically a decade, apparently, according to the show, and I really like that where she calls her Naomi because she never knew her real name. Small things like that really, really improve this episode for me. Now, moving on to my one sentence / one word over review, and I would have to say this is a very good episode and give it a 7 out of 10. I wasn't expecting this episode to be this good. The previous two episodes had growing pains, but this episode was gripping from start to finish. It had no growing pains, and it was definitely the best written so far. And I really, really am confident with Fear at this point, because each episode's just getting better and better and better. Fear does have a tendency to get bad in the final couple of episodes, so I'm really, really hoping with the shorter season, they will not get really, really bad by the last 2 or 3 episodes. But please tell me your thoughts down below. Did you like this episode? Did you hate it? What are your thoughts on this episode? And do you think it actually is Hereditary the cure, or do you think it is just the radiation? I'd like to know what you think down below. So goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you in my next video.